Hello and welcome to another painting video. In this video I'll show you how I make and paint my Nurgle bases. The overall theme I'm going for is that the army is slogging through a swampy, rocky terrain where big pools of slimy goo are present. Let me show you how I made them. So I notice the Lord of Blights is looking a little bit small compared to the Blight Kings. So I wanted to give him some artificial height to make sure he's looking like a hero unit. I still had this foam block lying around, which I will turn into a rocky outcrop for the Lord of Blights to stand on. First, I roughly measured how much of the block I need. After that, I kept cutting into it, trying to shape it as a natural formation. Luckily, with something like this, you can be quite rough. Make sure to put the rock on the base and the model on the rock to keep track of what you're doing. I chopped out little bits on the flat surface to create some texture as well. I also flattened the bottom so it will be easier to glue it on the base itself. For the glue I use Gorilla Glue. It's not the cheapest glue, but it works extremely well. For some additional texturing, I'm using an old paintbrush to spread some PVC or wood glue onto the base. I then cover this part with my basing material, which is basically these small slates. I wait a moment and by tapping on the base I remove the excess slating into my container. Next, I have a tub with some bigger slates that I'll also add to the base. And here we have the Lord of Blights standing on his rocky outcrop, overlooking his maggotkin marching through a swamp. Looks a lot more imposing, don't you think? I would also like to show you another way to make a swampy base. For this example, I'm going to use this Blight King. First, I use some green stuff to create a rough and elevated surface on the base. I use the sculpting tool to model it as I see fit. I also press down the model on the base so I have an indent on where the feet are going to be. As you can see, I left an area bare. This is where I want the puddle of goo to go. For fun, I add this pile of maggots that will be floating in the goo. I use super glue to attach the model on the base. Then I get my old brush again to add some PVC glue on the areas I want some extra texture. I then add some slates to the base. Now it's time to paint the base. I usually leave this for last, after I paint the model. First, I paint the rocks with some watered down Rhinox Hide. Watering it down speeds up the process of covering these bases quickly. Then I give the rock a wash with Nuln Oil. While the wash is drying, I paint the area where the puddle of goo will go with Caliban Green. When the wash has dried, I dry brush Screaming Skull onto the rocks. Now I will add a layer of Nurgles Rot to the area the slime goes. This usually takes 2 or 3 layers to get a nice even coat. Do make sure the layer has completely dried before applying another one. Finally, I paint the trim of the base with Steel Legion Drab. This usually requires 2 coats to get a nice even trim. And here we have a method on how to build and paint Nurgle bases. I think the slimy bases work really well with how I paint my models. Of course, there are endless ways to paint your bases, so how do you paint them? Let me know in the comments. Also be sure to check out my Instagram where I will post photos of my painting projects. Thanks for watching!